Welcome everybody. We've got 38 people on the call now, and then me and Fabio. That makes us about 40, so it's really cool. We're really happy with people showing up. So not just saying that you will show, but actually show up. So that's really nice of you. Today, our Scrum Caretakers Meetup is going to be about a combination, actually, although the core topic is the same. So I'm going to start by reading an article from a new book I wrote. It's not actually me who wrote it, but still edited. 97 Things Every Scrum Practitioner Should Know. And one of the articles in the book is from Fabio Panzavolta, Italian-French trainer, coach, friend that I've worked with. And the article that he contributed to the book, he later on recently also converted that into a more elaborate, more extended white paper, but essentially it's about the same case. We can't say the company's name because we don't have a permission for that, so allow us to not do that. It was a large international company, and I've been happy to be able to help out Fabio a little bit with the customer, with writing the article, and then also with the white paper. So I'm going to start out by reading the article from the book, so that I have a view over that. And then afterwards, I'm going to hand over the word to Fabio, and he's going to take you through the white paper, which is for the same book, for the same case. It's a webinar, so there's a Q&A window, so you can use the chat as much as you want. So thank you all. Jamie, I see a question of you in the chat. So later on, I'll hopefully be able to share the link. But this at least is the paper, if you can see that. So we get a sort of very generic title saying a world-leading company in secure communications. I wish we could have put the company name. That would have made it a lot shorter. Uses Scrum to restore its competitive advantage. That's the paper. You can find it at the Scrum.org website. So have a look. So in the first session, reading the article, then handing over the word to Fabio, who's going to answer questions. Use the chat for whatever you want to share. But if you have a question for Fabio, potentially for me, please use the Q&A window. I believe so. Thanks, Bhuvan, for pasting the link in there to the paper. Use the Q&A window for questions. I think there's still the functionality that you can upvote on questions. So if you have a question, please have a look whether your question is actually already in there, and then you can just upvote it. And then we'll see what happens. We've got about 1 hour and a half. We'll see how far we get. Yeah. So chat window, feel free to use it as much as you want, and then use the Q&A for specific questions. It may sound a bit silly, but I'm still going to share the little preparation I did in the form of a PowerPoint. So I've got a sort of one thing that every Scrum practitioner should know, based upon the title of my book. You see the paper over there. So what I liked about the book a lot is 97 articles is quite a lot, actually. So one of my roles in editing and sort of managing the book, owning the book, was to organize those articles by themes, group them into themes. And there are 10 themes or parts in the end. And I've added Fabio's article to part 9, which is called Organizational Design, which is sort of the theme of a number of articles. And let me start by saying that. So, and Fabio's article is article 88, if you want to know, so 88 out of 97. Now, there's no hidden message in that ordering anyhow. But the part about organizational design, so let me share quickly how I intended that to be. So in part 9, organizational design, you will find 9 things, things with a capital because it refers to the 97 things, 9 things with viewpoints, practical cases, and lessons learned about the impact of Scrum on organizational structures. So although this is not necessarily the same as scale, because that was sort of a potential other theme that I didn't use in the book, by the way. So it's not necessarily the same as scale. The organizational impact of Scrum is much more apparent, at least in large organizations. So that's how I looked at scale a little bit. And then I said in Italian, because introducing Scrum is not possible without impacting the organization and existing organizational structures. That seems to be an illusion that a lot of people are still in, that you can introduce Scrum and just keep the overall organizational structures, departments, silos intact, which is impossible. Yeah. So let me read out the article by Fabio first. It's called Scrum and Organizational Design in Practice. A company that has been around for more than 30 years, with all its organizational habits and practices that were built up over that time, it's much too complex a system to change as a whole over too short a time span. By the way, that's where a lot of agile transformations go wrong. In my work with such an organization, we did feel the need for change toward increased agility. However, we did not feel the need, nor did we have the ambition to try to change the whole system in one large agile transformation. Rather, we decided to make the transformation we aimed at implicit. We selected one tangible product and introduced Scrum for its further development and evolution. Now, to be honest, it seemed that the product that Fabio and the company selected in the end was already doing Scrum, which was fine too. So it was not completely introducing Scrum, but still a lot of things had to be reintroduced in a way. Our ambitions were clear and twofold. One, satisfying the CEO's objectives of improving time to market quality and customer satisfaction, certainly for the selected product. And two, revealing what should be improved in the organization. So it was about improving and revealing. After 1 year of experimentation and discovery, including improving the understanding of Scrum for all people connected to the product by using trainings and workshops, we had substantially improved the development team's focus. Not only did this lead to improved quality and speed, but it also enhanced cross-learning within the team. An important hurdle we had to clear for this was getting the organization to accept that the team was now dedicated only to our selected product. With regards to our second ambition, we revealed important organizational impediments to Scrum. We kept raising them with board members to keep up awareness. Collaboration between business and engineering remained an important improvement area. Product ownership was fragmented among too many people, affecting vision and direction. Management decisions to remove impediments tended to be slow. Employees were spread too thin, which limited their capacity to perform and learn from deep experiments. This was caused and worsened by the compliance pressure on employees. Their success was measured by how they responded to internal processes or how they respected internal processes rather than by indicators like customer satisfaction. Our many experiments wouldn't have been possible without all the people seeing the value of Scrum and relentlessly contributing in many ways to our company journey towards more agility. We know the journey will be long. We are gratified over every little improvement we make. The support, help, and belief in Scrum by one of the board members has proven crucial. However, it is extremely helpful to have a promoter on your side who knows the organization inside and out, is able to open doors, and is willing to try different approaches to help remove impediments. It has been one of the success factors that raised the bar of experimentation at different organizational levels. I feel we are the living evidence that improving time to market, quality, and customer satisfaction using Scrum is not possible without updating the organization. Although Scrum has no rules on what an organization should look like. I am curious, that's what Fabio says, but I agree. I'm curious to find out what is happening in your organization. What's been the biggest impact of Scrum on your organization? Is there something you're doing today that could be improved with Scrum? What do you think Scrum couldn't help to achieve that you were expecting it to? So it's a limited article. That was one of the boundaries, the guidelines of having an article in a book, but still it has a lot of things in that. So let me quickly share my little PowerPoint again, and then be ready to hand over the word to Fabio. So I like the article a lot. It's concise. It's clear, and it has a lot more, I think, lessons and insights in that than you might expect. But Fabio will go into that. Well, I personally liked a lot about that article, and in general that whole part, that whole chapter about organizational design. I don't know if anybody knows or remembers, but a long time ago I also wrote another book about Scrum in 2013 and 2019. And I ended my book back in 2013 and in 2019 with this quote, or this sort of expression, a belief, a statement, saying that the future state of Scrum will no longer be called Scrum. What we now call Scrum will have become the norm. And I made it that bold to emphasize that organizations have reemerged around it. So I truly hope, and that's one of the future challenges for Scrum, to help organizations rethink how they work, re-emerge structures around Scrum by introducing Scrum at a very different new way of working, new relationships. Not to speak of self-organization already as a core element of Scrum, that organizations will find a way to reinvent themselves around that. But then again, that is attached to my other belief that I have, that whatever model we use, it's always wrong. All models are wrong. There might be models that are slightly less wrong, but the other ones are even more wrong. That's sort of what I mean with my statement. And that's sort of the last thing I want to share. That's why since I left Scrum the Talk back in 2016, I started focusing on a couple of aspects, including my observation of what I call the illusion of agility. And it's only one word in Fabio's article. It said, let's make this transformation more implicit. I think that's very important, because way too many transformations are way too explicit, imposed on people. Everybody has to do the same stuff. It's all in the forefront. It's not aiming at helping people work in another way, step by step, gradually. It's imposing a large change project on people. And that's what I call explicit. So, and doing that in a more implicit way, making it like helping people rediscover new ways of working almost on a daily, at least on a sprintly basis. And what people overlook is that sort of very, very strange line I've drawn over the illusion of agility. So rather than creating an illusion of agility, hard work, trying out, experimenting, falling, getting back up, starting with one product like Fabio did with his customer, and then add another one and maybe another one. And in the meantime, rethinking all that beautiful things that you have around that. So that's sort of hard work. And a few years ago, I started calling that reversify. So to reversify, it's a verb. It's not a model, it's a verb. It's something to help you take action, do something, rather than being paralyzed by all the work that's coming towards you, or by trying to do too much. And it's built on the idea that it's about reimagining your Scrum against the purpose to re-emerge your organization. So it's an act, it's to reversify. So that, and in a way, Fabio, we never called it like that with your customer, but it's actually an example and probably the first example of what a company can achieve by reversifying, to reversify. And just background, to reversify is a sort of old English word. It's about restoring the verse, the poetry to something. So you have a simple text and then restoring the let's say the poetry to a simple text again. That's where I got my inspiration from. So, but anyhow, sort of background. Now that's enough. Let's give the word to Fabio. Fabio made also some things, and he can tell you the whole story. But first, Fabio, let me start with a question to you. I know that writing is quite difficult, certainly if you want to achieve some excellence. So you wrote an article for my book. You then wrote the article, the full article. It's about 9 pages, sort of. So that's a lot of hard work. Why did you go through all that pain? What was so important for you to share this story with the readers of my book and with the people wanting to look at the case? What was so important for you?
Yeah, so hi Gunther and hello everyone. I'm quite amazing having people from all over the world. So thanks for your time and connecting. Thanks Gunther for the presentation. Writing for me meant to make a perspective with myself, think to what happened, and maybe inspire others and give some ideas to experiment in everyday work as a Scrum Master. So I wrote, first of all, for myself, and then I think it's worth to share it also because it was a beautiful experience. So that's the main reason. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to add to that to all people that are listening or viewing this, that in your paper, by the end of every module or paragraph, you added some what you called retrospective insights.
Yes.
So that hopefully helpful to people to do even better than you already did.
Exactly, and that gave me as well a lot of ideas. If I had to do it again, I would do it in an improved way. So I'm sure that it will be also useful for myself if I have another occasion to put in practice all this. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So
Okay.
in the meantime, as you start up, Fabio, I'm going to keep an eye on possible questions coming in. And if I see stuff coming up, I will try to respectfully maybe interrupt your story and ask you to go into that.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, so the story is it's quite amazing because it's a succession of events, not at all planned, which ended up with this story, the whole story. And it all started with my will of not taking anymore all kind of assignments. I wanted to work with a company that really wanted to try Scrum to improve, which was the case. And the other combination was that I read a lot of your publications. And in a way, I found what you were writing quite straightforward, logical, and simple, yet very powerful. So I remember on the first times we were talking with the client, I said, okay, we want to improve time to market, you want to improve quality customer satisfaction. There one's way to do it. I would like to experiment this. Do you agree? Are you supporting me? And we agreed on proceeding as you wrote in your articles, your video, etc. So I started with a period of observation in the company to understand the company culture, the issues that they had. I read a report that was written by another company to understand where agile was in the company, and understand where the pain was. And the pain in the company was that they had to transition from a mass market production of something existing since many years to create innovative products, and they need to go fast to create these products. They couldn't.
And just to be clear, Fabio, for everybody, so the products or the market they were operating in was very specific communication devices.
Yes, exactly. It's a company who owns the infrastructures, who owns the devices, and it's like the 4G network, except that it's a particular network. So they are living on a business that is running since a lot of years, but which is opening to the market. So they are coming. They see startups coming and proposing some new innovative products much faster than them. So they wanted to, in a sense, evolve and become faster in creating and selling products.
So okay, if I can quickly summarize that, it sounds like a large established company on a very stable established market, and then suddenly over a very short time span being confronted with innovations, disruptions, new players, and new players being able to capitalize on new technologies a lot better than they were able to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so another important point is that it would have been impossible to do all this alone. So I did this with plenty of people. First of all, one member of the board who was very convinced that Scrum could help. So a strong sponsorship from the upper management. Not all the people, but some key people. And so the important part of this approach was to have a combination of working with the board members and with the Scrum team. It was the first time I did this, and I also thought, because my idea came from your work, I also thought to get in touch with you. And say, hey Gunther, I'm working on this. Can you help me? Because I think that there's something interesting that we could do together.
And which also sort of reflects, Fabio, if I can say that, the thing that you and I think are common sense are not so common within a large organization.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think it's quite normal because when you are used to work in a way and you have pressure and that's I think it's a normal. But I think that our added value is exactly the one that we can bring some novelty, a different way of thinking. That we have the opportunity to experiment, so that the experimentation can prove that it works, because it works. And then, it's a combination of pushing and pulling to move forward. But once we have started, the only thing we can do is to raise the bar and to see if each time that we raise the bar, someone follows. Because if it is the case, the company will progress, will be better in using Scrum. Otherwise, it won't. But this is about their story. I was just trying to raise the bar with you each time. So that they could better use a Scrum.
At least I still remember the session we had with the international executive leadership team. So with sort of amazing people from literally around the world. I remember Mexico, Asia, Finland, France, every part of the
Germany,
world
yeah.
was represented there, and you and I, we took like 2 or 3 hours to take them to a sort of workshop with Scrum.
Yeah, exactly. Now to go a little bit more into the story, what I did, I just want to share. Can I share my screen?
We normally should be able to do so.
Yeah, just to give a little bit of more of. I was my ambition was every time to raise the bar without without saying that I was raising the bar, but I had in mind what I had to do. So my first actions were to ask to have open events where anyone in the company could come. And where I was presenting agility in general. So we started with a series of open events, which were, how do you say, sponsored by the communication team. So I had some help on this. And the first events were pushed. That's why I was saying I'm always doing some pushing, pulling. So I was pushing the first events. I was speaking about the Agile Manifesto, Scrum values, complexity and empiricism, the Scrum framework. And after the fourth, I started to pull things from people. So what would you like to talk about? How do you see agility and Scrum with your environment? What are your struggles? And that's where we started to talk about Scrum with non-agile customers, because one of the first struggles of these people were that they are dealing with governmental institutions, which are not really agile. And based on this, we started to have collaborative events and work together and trying to imagine the future.
Yeah. And that may sound very obvious for a lot of people, maybe in the call, but in a large organization with people being sort of used to getting instructions for years and years and years, suddenly you coming up and asking them to think for themselves,
yes,
is it's a lot less obvious than you might think.
Yes, we had a strange phenomena, like one event where I was just making a brief introduction, giving instructions, and then they said, okay, now it's up to you to create content. And some people were just leaving, like if they were afraid to create content. So that's one of the issues. But after a few months, they understood that if they came in an event that was organized by me, they knew that they were free and they had to create content and collaborate. So that's one of the first steps to change the mindset, because one of the job we have to become agile, you need to change the way you think. So one of the first side effects, if you want to call it, was that they started to collaborate and to create content and be less afraid of.
Yeah, cool. I just want to point out, because you say that very naturally, after a few months.
Yes.
Now, after a few months, that sounds like easy to say that afterwards, but I want to point out to people that a large organization requires quite some patience and trust and persistence from people like yourself, because you know where you want to take them.
Yes.
And still you have to give them time to digest it, absorb it, and then find that balance that you talked about between pushing them, but don't push them too much, because you would push them away from you, and then pull again. And like you just said, after a few months, I want people to really feel that after a few months. Imagine being there regularly, working with people, and then still it takes a few months.
Yes, yeah, absolutely right. And I am quite a impatient person. And I remember I was writing to you and saying, it's not going too fast. And you saying, okay, keep calm, it will come. And that's true. And I was reading something a few days ago, which I liked very much. You have to be impatient to start, but be patient for results to come once it has started. So it's really true.
Now, quickly on those events, Fabio.
Yes.
Question by somebody: Did you plan for them? Were they more like ad hoc? How did so shortly? How did you organize those events?
Okay. After having observed the company culture and what was going on in the company, I decided to start a series of events. So this was me pushing, starting from the the basics of agile. So I started with the Agile Manifesto. I had a presentation just of the Agile Manifesto, and then I let people work on, do you think you are more process and tools or more collaboration? So I try to let them think about this. So I was pushing four events, one per month of 2 hours. And we did the Agile Manifesto, the Scrum values, complexity and empiricism, and the Scrum framework, because I wanted to give an overall idea of what Agile and Scrum is. And starting after the fourth one, I started to post some, a place where people could ask for new argument. So I started to pull things from people. So I had people from sales that asked questions, asked for new events. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So always on the idea of raising the bar. If we speak about executives, sorry, we started together with a workshop with the executives. And then we started to, between quotes, but to sell the idea that we should have worked with a small team, and then by inspection and adaptation, see what would emerge from this. We did some weekly meetings then with a limited number of people of the board. And after a few months, we did another workshop, and the first people from the board asked me to go and report on the initiative, and which was it's normal stuff in this kind of companies. And I say, okay, but why me? The transformation is not about me, it's about you, your teams, so why you don't talk to each other? And initially the proposal of having the board meeting the Scrum team was really, we have to think about it, we are not sure we can do it. And after a few weeks they said, okay, we can do it, and we did it. So the board of directors met the Scrum team, and they just talked together, which was a great achievement for me. I was very happy, and I was really just on the background and maybe sometimes answering to questions, but that's all.
But that's something that worked really well. So I wasn't there, but I still believe that it worked well because you did it only for one product, a limited number of people and one team. So the scope of whatever transformation was sort of limited. Because for this positive case that helped, but also for the problems that you run into, that was too much to try to handle that for too many teams or too many products at the same time. That's why it's so important to sort of select one project, one product, and then go for sort of the positive experiences as well as the problems you need to fix.
Exactly, and the beauty of this is that if you are able to remove some impediments for this team, these are, impediments that will be removed also for future teams. because this is general impediments in the organization. So yeah, and that's very powerful. We observed really the impediments that were not removed still being a problem from the Scrum team, so that we were saying, okay, you want to start more Scrum teams, but still the impediments are there. So don't you want to wait and remove the impediments and then start? So we had this kind of discussions, which are very powerful.
Because there was a question from Stefano. He says that it looks like the company was really motivated to change, which I think wasn't really true. They did feel some pains, but I remember at that executive team meeting that there was still at least some people arguing whether they were really in trouble or not, and that, you know what, and then some people brought up the example of a project that was sort of killed or not making any progress after 2 years being worked on and so on, and the CEO being sort of surprised and things. So I think you help them feel the pain, but I think you really help them by focusing on one product and not try to change the whole company. And that helped you focus and not having to convince like all the company, all managers, all layers at the same time, because that would have been too much anyhow, I think.
Yes, and that was kind of very difficult, because it was a very stressful situation with a lot of pressure, and some managers were not really were not agreeing on the fact that we should have done one initiative at the time. They wanted to start multiple initiatives, but you're right. I think not everybody was kind of onboarded on the way of doing. They discovered the implications while we were doing it. Someone was really keen to remove the impediments. Some others were too much busy, and that was one of the biggest issues that we had. Too much busy on business as usual, to find the time to step back, think, act, really act. Yeah. So they were really motivated. Let's say, anyway, one member of the board was particularly motivated, with some other members. Then we let, things emerged, and yeah, that's basically. Something that I wanted to complete, because I was speaking of raising the bar, after the workshop where the Scrum team met the board, it wasn't finished. I was very happy. I did absolutely nothing. I was happy to hear that the CEO was going to participate to the sprint reviews. So I think you met him. I don't know if you did something, Gunther. But
was it after I sort of went back and had it, and yeah, he wanted to know where it's. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I don't know what I did. Yeah.
Because Gunther met the CEO some time later, and I was very happy to know that the CEO starting to participate to the sprint reviews, so creating some panic in the teams. And they said, "Why are you panicking? He's a stakeholder. He's like everyone else. You don't have to prepare anything. You are ready." Yeah. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, what you just said is more important than you might imagine, because I've been in several other large organizations, and often when the CEO, or maybe not even the CEO, but just some management people come around, they start cleaning and yes. Cleaning the desk and making it sort of, and it becomes a sort of facade. It's not the real work. So that is actually more important what you say there than I think you imagine for yourself, actually. Yeah.
I realized, but it was quite. I was challenging the team, because they were saying, "Okay, we need to prepare," and they said, "Why? Why you need to prepare something? It's like usual." And I heard that he was very happy with what he saw. So that was about the board members. I also did something because the Scrum team was exceptional. The guys in the Scrum team, I know maybe there's one of the people from the Scrum team who is hearing me. They was quite amazing. They were already using Scrum, but they were very open-minded, very open to novelty and to try new things. So in the raising the bar, we're starting to work in the definition of done because they didn't have a definition of done, if I remember well. So we're starting working in the definition of done. We made some. We worked together to improve the sprint review. Silver is saying something here. Yeah, Silver. Hello. So Silver is one of the people from the Scrum team. And then we did some trainings, which was something that I think we made too late. We should have done it earlier, but we didn't have the approval. And one thing that is very important about the trainings, and this is also attached to the kind of initiative, is that initially the human resources wanted to train 2,000 people in the whole organization about Scrum. And I said, yes, from a point of view of money, it's a good initiative. But I said, I don't think it's a good initiative for you. You should focus on training the people that are working on this Scrum team, so in this experimentation, and all the stakeholders that are around this Scrum team. So they heard me, and we did the training for more or less 60 people. But it was 60 people from the Scrum team, the sales, quality. I mean, a lot of business entities. They really each time did a sprint retrospective to try to improve, to add new challenges to themselves. They had issues on having people 50% of their time, not full time on the team. So I helped having people 100% of the time in the team.
But if I remember well, also again, that was sort of a few months before you established the idea of dedicated teams. So,
yeah, I think it took like between 6 and 8 months to convince that it was better to have all the people full time to avoid the context switching. But we have to fight with some managers, because the usual way of doing things in the company is to have managers that assign people to to the different teams.
Yeah, treat people as resources, actually.
Yes, like if you were a machine, so you can go from one point to another without any loss of
productivity.
Yeah, which is not true, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then after we went through this, I really saw a self-organizing, a cross-functional team. I had Elias, one of the people that initially was just doing testing, that told me a phrase that just stayed with me, and he said, "Thank you, because now my job makes sense every single day of the sprint." Wow. Because before he was just working like a crazy the last day of the sprint to test everything, and
so, where the sprint was more like a sort of mini waterfall.
Yes.
And that's all part of, just to summarize, sort of what we called reimagining Scrum, right?
Yes.
They were doing Scrum, something at least that looked like Scrum. You helped them think about the events more, the definition of done, also relationship within the team, collaborate, and then beyond that, impediment organization, the non-dedicated way of working, you try to establish that. That was all just for Scrum team. So, and that sort of also brings the idea, so there's, Olivier Ledru, is a fellow trainer of ours. He wanted to know, was that a kind of a heroes team or a regular team? And the funny thing is, I don't know, you called the team exceptional, but you didn't choose that team because they were exceptional. You went to the team and you found out that they were just exceptional. So they were not selected because of their exceptionality or whatever. It was part of, they were building the product and you worked with them. And then maybe they became more excellent because you've liberated them. I don't know.
That's true, because that's linked to your, you have something else. You wrote a paper about engagement is key, and these people are really, I don't know, 200% more engaged. I can give a figure, but they are really engaged. Like if the product was their product, and it was beautiful to see. Yeah, very beautiful to see.
And at least I want to bring out one lesson that you just shared. I would have wanted to do trainings sooner, right?
Yeah, I would have liked to. Yeah,
that would have been helpful.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I'm not really following the presentation, but yeah, I have some data, because I like to collect data with what I do. So I have some numbers. We trained 63 people in PSM, PSPO. I did something like more or less 26 workshops from 1 hour to 2 days, and I had more or less 250 people that in a way was participating in these workshops. When I say I did, I don't like this, because I had a huge help inside the company, with really people engaged to promote Scrum and teach Scrum. So this was done in collaboration, not only me. And part of this collaboration was a community of practice that we created, because I felt that after the trainings, some people, especially non-engineering people like sales or legal, didn't have the opportunity to try Scrum. So we created this community of practice that allowed people to experiment Scrum without any pressure, without any projects, just try Scrum. And also in this idea of raising the bar, we started the first event with an open discussions about, there were no plans, we just open discussion about Scrum in the company. Then I did some little bit of push, but I tried just to be present and stay silent, which is very hard for me, but I try to do my best.
But there are people so let's say the session now that also emphasize the fact that they're also very impatient. So you, as a very impatient person, now sharing, Fabio, that patience is part of the game. I think that's a good message.
Yes, you have to be patient, and I have to do something for for myself. And so we did a series of community of practice events, how to handle exceptions in Scrum, creation of, and then that's emerged a little bit. I pushed a little bit, but it was mainly from the people participating. They wanted to create a workshop, like starting up with Scrum, for people in the company that wanted to start Scrum. So the people that got the training and that had the experience in the company created this internal workshop, which was run at least once when I was still in the company, and it had a lot of positive effect, because it wasn't me bringing the Scrum, the workshop, etc. It was internal people with their experience talking about Scrum, and that was one of the outcomes of this community of practice. We had another huge outcome, but I think that now I don't know where it is, but another one, we wanted to imagine a new innovative product, because the people that were in the community of practice were from all over the company, so sales, engineering, so they could talk together, imagine new product together without any constraint. So they had ideas, they try to work on a new product, and then that was the last event that we did in the community of practice. But you see the progression from just having an open discussion until trying to create a new product all together without silos. I think I don't know if you have questions open.
Yeah, there was some questions, at least about somebody wanted to know agile learning was mandatory, right? And you just said in a way yes and no, if I hear you well. So I think everybody saw the value of also being trained.
Mm-hmm.
So would you call that mandatory, or how did you approach that?
Yes, we had to. My suggestion was to have volunteers. Unfortunately, and I think the issue is not because the people didn't want to be volunteer. I think that in this company there's really, like in every company, people are very, very, very busy, and they say, okay, another training coming, I have to do it. So if they can't go, they prefer. So we had to push some people. But in the end, after the training, I didn't have any, people regretting to having participated in the training. So we had to do some push on some people, and some other were volunteering, were coming to see me and working with me, and yeah.
Yeah, although I think I remember one of the retrospective insights you had is that people should have been invited to participate more on a voluntary basis.
Yes. That has been always my suggestion: is look for volunteers, and secondly, help people freeing up time. Because you won't have any volunteer if people are completely busy and overloaded. So yeah.
There were also some questions about sort of the things that were driving you. Somebody wanted to know about evidence-based management, where do you introduce that? And somebody else, Dieter, wanted to know about, so you mentioned time to market quality, customer satisfaction. You want to know about how about transparency, speed, and so on. But in a way, the way I remember it, Fabio, we didn't introduce anything like EBM because that would have been sort of too much or way off. But actually, if I think about it, you did work with the CEO and the management team, but even with the CEO to identify in what domains you wanted to see improvement. And that was sort of those two domains that you mentioned in the article: improvement and reveal. Can you share a little bit more about, because that in a way is a sort of evidence-based management, because that was sort of the metric that the CEO had in mind.
Yes. The board members had the classical report where you see green, yellow, red, and doesn't mean a lot. So what I've always said is that the product owner should be the person who is taking care of his product. So he wants to know how his product is performing. So he will find, or she will find, the good metrics for their product. So I helped the product owner to be aware of these metrics and help to use it, because during sprint review he was showing something at the end, the indicators. And then we worked with the I started to work with some members of the board in reality to have an improvement of their of the way they were following the product's performance. But the overall message that I gave is that they should have empowered and they should make understand to the product owner that he is the one in charge of following his metrics. And then they could participate to the sprint review to understand how the product is performing. I don't know if I'm answering to your question.
I think so, because the way I sort of look at it, there was a pain they were feeling. some urgency at least. They were losing sort of market, and they realized that their legacy systems and their legacy products would last for a while, but not forever. So they knew that they had to change. And then the way that you really got it going was by making it small again, not changing the whole company.
Yes.
So but again, sort of it's sometimes slow, because I remember us leaving the executive team meeting with the question to that group of people, asking them to look for what is that one product, project, whatever that you want to try Scrum on, to see whether this works for you or not. And that in itself already took at least 2 months, I believe, before they came up with a project.
Yes. Yes. And also I offered my help in order to find the project, but I wanted to do something a little bit more participative. I asked to have like an event, a public event, where we were just saying that we wanted to try this, and if we had some volunteering team to participate. It didn't went this way. I just had one day someone told me that a product was selected, which was the one with whom we worked for almost 2 years. But the effect of selecting, pushing the selection, was that the team became very anxious, because they were just giving the news. A member of the board came to see them and say, "Okay, you are selected. For now on, you will be you will be watched, and we will see how it's going."
The whole company, including the management team, is now closely going to look at you.
Yes. So you can imagine the reaction of panic, and so the first reaction was to say, "Okay, yes, good, you are watching us. So if we understood well, we won't have any more resources, but we will have even more pressure, and that's your initiative." So we had to explain that this wasn't the case, and we had to gain the trust of the team. And we worked for a few weeks later to show that they could trust us by giving them what they were asking to us. So,
but their initial anxiety also is a reflection on how it would have gone normally, how it usually went. And the fact that it didn't end up there again is quite important. But also the fact that you took one project, one product with that team, and then that is sort of what I wanted with Reversify. Take action, do. Learn while doing. It helped you. You didn't have to convince the whole management, everybody in the organization, train 2,000 people. That would never have worked after a few years. I'm pretty sure that you would have ended up with what I call the illusion of agility. And now you had made like real, tangible, actionable improvements. And at the same time, revealed, which was the second thing that the CEO wanted, you have revealed important organizational problems, things that needed to change to improve and so on. And so that sort of step-by-step approach was in a way so important. You have to, that's why I mean with Reversify, make it small. Don't try to change the whole company overnight, but do it initiative by initiative. And look at all the problems you run into, because you wanted to have dedicated people, took you a few months. You wanted to restore collaboration and trust within the team. That eventually actually did happen, so that now it looks like a superhero team, but you actually created an environment in which people felt engaged again or re-energized again to actually get the job done. And then the product owner stuff. I think I think you're also quite open about it. That was still a problem, right? Because you have the very typical situation where sales, product management people making sort of delivery release promises to the market, and I think you were still struggling with that, right?
Yes, we had the issue of the sales people with a way of selling, typical industrial way of selling. So they said to us, "Okay, the product is not finished, so just come back to us when the product will be finished, and we will start to think to sell it. So, and I said, okay, but don't you think that we could collaborate together and then maybe say what's going on, because the product is working, stakeholders are happy, so maybe we could start already to selling it. And then we're starting to go into discussions like, no, but we have a plan to follow for our selling. So it's a huge change for this kind of company. In the end, the product owner was a little bit, the proxy product owner. He was executing a bunch of requirements, but not really optimizing the value that we were creating. Even though in the end, I have to say that he was doing his best to do this, and without too much, giving trouble to the salesperson. So it was like a gymnastic that we were trying to do.
Yeah, but I think we can honestly share that in the end, the ownership of the product owner over the product was sort of quite limited.
Yes.
I think there are still great improvements to make in that area.
Yes, we revealed this issue during a training that we did, I think in April or May in 2019. Yeah, I mean, 8 months later, everybody knows that we had this issue with product ownerships. So I proposed to help the product owner to become an entrepreneur, but he didn't want to do it. And I proposed to, work to select a new product owner, maybe in the sales part. But there was a lot of political discussions, and we couldn't do it.
At least for you, they could have a sort of picture of what it could have been in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sort of what I think, it wasn't that explicit, but I remember when you worked with the team on the definition of done, which they didn't have, which is actually very important because they lacked transparency in a way. You worked on something you took from the book by Summer Reindel and Stephanie Okerman, right? Mastering Professional Scrum.
Exactly, yes.
We had a picture where you thought with the team of what ideally should be in the definition of done. And from all of that, what are we currently able to do?
Yes.
What will we try to do next, and what ultimately should also be in there? So that in that sense, you use the fact that they had a definition of done, so that the primary purpose is transparency anyhow. And you've helped them achieve that transparency, and then to start improving. So you're not at the level yet that increments were actually really releasable, but in I think in the year that you worked at least with the team, you've moved a lot in that direction, right?
Yeah. It's wider than this, because we established a company definition, an organizational definition of done with the quality team, because they have a lot of requirements in terms of security, of regulations, etc. So we had a definition of done that was established by the organization, following the ISO, compliancy, etc. With this definition of done given by the organization, we worked with the development team and the product owner to establish a definition of done for the product. And this was quite one of the first improvements. Yeah.
Cool. Because it's somebody wanted to know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Any important lessons that you still want to share, Fabio? What were, have you any sense of what were the lessons that the company took from the work you did with the teams? Because you share some retrospective insights. Yes. What are lessons that did they reorganize structurally, fundamentally? There was a question about did they think about sort of onboarding people and how to work with new teams that wanted to do Scrum or new initiatives? What were the lessons that the company took from your work?
I hope I left a little heritage. Since day one, I start working to be non-essential and to transfer my passion and what I believe about Scrum to other people. I know that in the company there are people that are as convinced as I am that what we did is good, not only for the company, but for the people that are working in the company. My best takeaway of this adventure, if I have to take one, is that I hope I left people. People told me that it's not that I hope. People told me that they will have hard times going back working as they were doing before, because they found, they were free of taking their decisions, and that's many other things. But they really liked this. So for me, is my small success. I think that changing a company of this kind, it takes ages. So I do not pretend to be able to do it. But I hope that the small grain that the seeds that I planted, that I hope that they will raise and help the company.
Yeah, I remember along the road sometimes having communication with you, sort of trying to re-energize you too. And I think what is important, what was and still is important in your role, that what you just said, you plant a lot of seeds and hoping that some of them at least will grow into a beautiful flower. If you don't plant enough seeds, the chances of flowers are limited too. So you have to plant plenty of seeds, so that maybe that's a lesson for people too. And another thing is, and I still believe in that deeply, Fabio, that I'm very sure that a lot of the work you did, the impact that you left was very much indirect. So it's not always indirect results. You've helped a lot of people, and I'm very sure that you left you had a very indirect impact. So not always visible to you, but I'm very sure that you influenced a lot more people than you're even aware of.
For sure, I agree. Something that I have to, because you don't say it, but Gunther helped a lot. Just sometimes he helped because he didn't reply a mail from me, I don't know, something like this, but you always help, just one word or not responding or responding. So I'm really grateful because it was a huge help. I learned a lot. There's something that I wanted to say, I forgot. Yes, the simplicity of what we did is the key. You have to stay simple. You just have to work. You just have to be aware of all the impediments. You have to challenge people to raise the bar, and then you have to accept that you may fail. But then it's the story of these people, is not your story. So that's
I like that focus on simplicity, because if you think about it, you didn't drag any large scale frameworks, any other frameworks, not even what somebody wanted to know, evidence-based management.
No.
Just by that idea that I put in reverse file, reimagine your Scrum, select one initiative. For that initiative, reset the accountabilities, rethink the accountabilities via trainings and so on. Identify impediments, solve them for that initiative, move up to the level that what we call sashimi releases, right?
Yes.
Creating tasteful, small sashimi releases, but only for that one initiative. Take your lessons, solve problems for that. That's sort of the essential question. So even large organizations can make it small. And I'm very sure that if they spend enough time, that they will achieve a lot more than trying to go into too big or too large scale as from the beginning.
Yes, because you will have to force people, and if you force people, they will give you the illusion that they are doing something for you, and it won't work.
Yeah. And that would be just the old existing culture, right?
Exactly.
Pretending as if.
Yeah, something just I wanted to add about EBM. We didn't use it, but we collected a lot of data, and we used data to improve.
So you applied the sort of the principles without calling it out as an additional framework and so on. That's again sort of the message of simplicity. Okay. Thank you very much, Fabio. I hope you liked the session.
Yes.
Thanks everybody for attending. I think most questions were answered. So the URL to the paper was pasted in the chat window somewhere. Go look it up. I'll make the recording available of these sessions via my YouTube channel. So thank you very much for being here. See you next time.
Thank you, Gunther. Bye. Thank you all.
Thank you, Fabio. Bye-bye.